Hey everyone, welcome back, and today we're going to be doing a drift build for the ZR-350. Now this video is going to be showing you all of the best modifications to go ahead and put on the car to get it drifting to its fullest potential, and as well there's also going to be a segment of me giving you some tips and tricks, like a little guide on how to drift this car a little bit easier. Now if you do go on to enjoy today's video, please do go ahead and drop a like and subscribe for more. And if you're interested in similar content just like this, I do have a playlist up in the top right and description you can go and check out after this video. All of that being said, if you would like me to go ahead and make some more drift builds on any cars that I currently haven't done yet, please do comment them down below. I'd be more than happy to make more in the future. But let's get into it. Now let's get into the build itself. So firstly, I'm going to run you through the customization options that are absolutely essential to get the car drifting, and then after I'll show you my cosmetic choices in case you want to go ahead and replicate my build. So first things first, I recommend you go ahead and equip the low grip tires and tire enhancements, as they give you a ton less traction and also make it a lot easier to go ahead and initiate drifts. Now for your brakes, I recommend you go ahead and leave them stock, as upgrading them is simply just going to lead to you slowing your momentum down a little bit more if you do need to use the brakes, and it isn't something you really need for a drift car. That's not what you want. But also for the performance upgrades, I recommend you go ahead and max all of them out. That extra performance is going to help out a lot, so max out your transmission, your turbo, your engine. Go ahead and put those all to the highest levels that you can do. Now moving on to suspension, I recommend the street suspension. With the new tuner cars, the lower the car is, the less grip it's going to have, at least with the suspension options. This isn't including stancing, and in my opinion the stock suspension is a little bit too twitchy for me. It's a bit too hard to control, so the street suspension gives me a nice balance, so I can actually get the back end to kick out. I can, you know, keep it sliding, but it doesn't completely go nuts on you. Next, I would actually advise you in this case to actually go ahead and equip a spoiler. That might sound counterintuitive because, you know, typically spoilers give you extra traction, and traction isn't something you always want with a drift car, but because of how twitchy this car is and how hard it is to control, I reckon it's worth it. The little bit of extra traction helps out quite a bit. Now those are all of the essentials out of the way. Now I'm going to run you through the more cosmetic side of things. So firstly, I went with the maximum armor upgrade. I went with the painted cutout bumper on the front end and the stock bumper on the rear end. For the engine block, I ran the stock option. On that air filter, I used the primary oil intake system, the turbo intake. For strut brace, I've got the medium titanium one, maxed out engine as we covered before, stock intercooler. On the exhaust, I've got the dual exhaust, running those stock front fenders and primary bolt-ons for the rear. Using sleepy eyes for the headlights, I've got primary hood catches and a stock hood for the hood options. On the interior, I'm running the carbon dash with the stripped interior and using the dash gauges for the dials. Got that carbon panel door. Got those sports seats. Apex Clubman steering wheel. Got the padded roll cage. Using the stock lights on there. Got no livery. No louvres, using those tuner mirrors. Got the blue on white plate, respray classic black for both the primary and secondary color. I reckon it looks super clean on the RX7. It's a very nice looking color in black, car in black. For the trim color, again just black. Accent color is shadow silver, and no crew emblem for this one. For the roof options, I used the tuner roof scoop, extended skirts for the side skirts, no splitter on the front, a competition spoiler, no sun strip, street suspension as we already covered, stock tail light option, race transmission, turbo tuning. The wheels are the Dash VIPs in chrome in the SUV section. Some people say that supposedly certain wheel types give you less traction, but I don't see a difference personally. But yeah, no tire design, low grips, black tire smoke, and limo window tint. But now that is the build sorted, so let me know what your thoughts are on it. I'd love to hear your feedback down below if you find it helpful, find it enjoyable. But let's go ahead and give you some tips now on how to drift this beast. If you want to be drifting any of the cars from the new tuners update, remember to go ahead and lower the stance in the interaction menu by the vehicle stance option, as it will drastically reduce the grip the car has on the road. So remember to do that if you want to drift it. Now I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks on how to drift this car a little bit easier, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell you straight up how it is. This car, out of the new tuners cars, is probably the most difficult to drift. This car is absolutely crazy. It's always working against you. It is super difficult to control. So if you're not that experienced at drifting, I personally wouldn't recommend you try this as one of your first cars. I'd recommend you go with something maybe like the Futo GTX or something like that instead. This car is nowhere near as forgiving. The car is incredibly twitchy. It's very sensitive to the throttle. You know, it spins out almost all the time. It feels like the back end kicks out a lot, but not the way you want it. It just kicks out every time you don't want it to, you know. But if you can manage throttle control, you know how to use the mid-drive speed boost or double clutch, which is something that is pretty much essential for this car, and if you don't know how to do it, I've made a guide. It'll be in the top right. And as well as that, utilizing you know, counter steering, all key things that you need for drifting, you should be okay with this car. It is more suited for those smaller kind of courses, you know, little tracks, little obstacles, you know, maybe around some smaller lower speed corners, you know, maybe around in parking lots and whatever, probably be best for it, or something like that. But it isn't the kind of car you can really throw about at super high speed through a bunch of different corners at like crazy top speeds, you know, throw in 360s and whatever and expect everything to, you know, it's not like that. Okay, this car is just too crazy for that sort of thing, in my opinion. I think it's a lot easier to go ahead and try drifting a more modest pace, a low speed, and you could still pull off some pretty nice looking drifts, don't get me wrong. It's just those quicker ones this car is incredibly difficult to do with, just because of how uncontrollable it is. But a few things that I'd say to help you out your control: you're going to need to practice a lot with this car. It is going to take a while to get the feel for it, especially with its throttle. The throttle is probably going to be the most sensitive thing that you're going to need to keep an eye on. It's not something I can really say, oh, you have to do this exact thing. It's just you just have to practice with it. It's a thing like you just need to know when to put it through the corners, you know, how much to put down. I recommend you go ahead and practice somewhere, maybe like here at the docks or in some parking lot with a lot of different pillars and stuff, and just get a feel for when you should be putting down the throttle, put the power down to go ahead and get, you know, a bit more speed, but without to carry the drift through, but without spinning yourself out. It just takes a little bit of practice. It takes a bit of time to get used to. But you know, once you get it and you're going to be able to start flowing through the corners, you can link up your drifts pretty nicely, get some transitions in there, and it is not bad looking once you get it going. But another thing I go ahead and say that you want to keep in mind is that the car is going to be wanting to spin out a lot, so don't feel discouraged if you start spinning out. You know, even I'm dealing with this. It's very, very hard to control. Okay, it's rear wheel drive, ton of power, very twitchy, very hard to control. You know, it's gonna spin out. It's just gonna happen. Now you can try and keep it composed, put together all of that, but it is very difficult, I'm just saying right now. So just take some practice with it. You know, even the test track's a good spot to do it, actually. Just take it out, give it some practice, get those key skills down, and hopefully soon enough you're gonna find yourself drifting the car a ton easier. But all of that being said, I hope you did find this video helpful. If you did, please do go ahead and drop a like and subscribe for more. But that's gonna be all. Once again, let me know if there are any other drift builds you'd like me to do for any cars I currently haven't done yet. But that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.